Hello and welcome. This is Ricky Schoonover with 8Z Real Estate, your local Denver realtor and host of this show, the Denver Homes Market Report podcast. All right, thank you very much for tuning in today. I have a great show lined up. We've been talking about buyer's market. I'm getting tired of talking about buyer's market. If you're a potential buyer and you don't realize we're in a buyer's market, I strongly encourage you to give me a call. Well, first of all, go back and listen to my last 3 podcast episodes because the last 3 months I've been hammering home we're in a buyer's market. I've been explaining why and the hows and everything else about buyer's market. So if you have any question about why we're in a buyer's market or what that means to you as a potential buyer, go back and listen to those last 3 episodes. Then give me a call, 720-688-5110, and we'll talk all about buyer's markets from there. But today I want to give some love to my sellers out there. I feel like my sellers are like, Ricky, you keep talking about buyer's markets, but I need to sell my house. And what are you telling me? I can never sell my house now? So I want to kind of take that temperature down a little bit and say, no, Mr. or Mrs. Sellers, we potential sellers out there, we can make it happen. We've got to do real estate. We've got to work in this market as this market is presenting to us, right? So we've got to step up our game a little bit, if you will, as a potential seller. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to get your home ready for market, what we've got to do to get sold for the most the market will bear right now in this current market. So let's get into it. The first thing, before I even get that far, first of all, quick shout out to the Mortgage Network. I'm in their beautiful office. Thank you, Jackson, for letting me use your office today. So we're here doing the podcast. And here's probably a good segue because I think that subscribe button is popping up. So maybe that subscribe button right there or subscribe button right there. If you're on my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And we'll go from there. Next thing we're going to talk about today, a little bit later in the podcast, is about photography. So another quick shout out to Orchestrated Light, Christopher Weber and his team over there, Joe. Thank you guys very much. We'll be doing an hour-long interview in about a week or so, and we'll get that onto my YouTube channel in about 2 weeks. So be looking for that. If you have hit that subscribe button, you'll probably be alerted to that. But we're going to get into my why I got into real estate, my upbringing a little bit, and the reason why I'm so passionate about what I do. And then I don't know what Chris is going to be talking about. It's not going to be scripted. We're just going to get in there and talk. So we'll find out what he brings to the table. But I know one thing I want to ask him about is, we all have these fancy cell phones, the one I'm using right now with a camera on there, but I can't take pictures with my cell phone for my sellers. I just don't think that serves them well. So we're going to get into why that is. There's a lot more into real estate photography than just having the phone, and there's some knowledge there, some lighting issues there, angles, everything else. So we'll get into that with Chris Weber in about a week or so. We'll get it onto my YouTube channel in about 2 weeks. So tune in and check that out. But today, let's get in with our sellers. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about the maintenance, because in the years past, we put the house on the market. We'd put the for sale sign on Thursday. We announced the open house on Friday. We'd be at the open house on Saturday. And by Monday, you had 20 offers and you had plenty of buyers to pick from. Well, those times have changed. And now we're about 45 to 50 days on the average home that stays on market before you get an offer. So we want to try to minimize that time the best we can. We also want to maximize the price you get for your home. So let's talk about that a little bit. First thing we're going to talk about is maintenance. There's some deferred maintenance that kind of goes on. I'm guilty of it myself. So if you have a water heater, inside that water heater, there's like a little mineral rod. You can pull that out and clean the minerals off of that. You can also drain the sediment out the bottom. You're supposed to do that once a year. I don't know how many people do it. I have a tankless water heater. I don't even know the maintenance I'm supposed to do on the tankless water heater. I'm going to have to reach out to my HVAC guy, my plumber, and figure that out. But I'm sure there's some maintenance that I'm supposed to be doing that I haven't done on my house. So I'll have to get that done. The next one is your HVAC system, right? You might have a manifold in there that's cracked. It's leaking a little bit of gas. So we want to get that fixed if that's an issue, get it cleaned out and serviced. And then the other one is the roofs, because the insurance companies are being a lot more scrutinizing on those roofs. You don't want your deal to blow up because you're halfway through the deal and then your buyer can't get insurance on the property, or the premium is like super high and they end up not wanting to buy your home because the roof is too old. So let's get that checked out. Maybe we can do a 5-year roof cert where they come out and take a look at it. We don't have to do it in every instance, but a roofer can come out and make some minor adjustments or minor repairs on it and bring things up to code and give you a 5-year roof cert. So that might be something you can present to the buyer and say, look, I've had my roof inspected. I've had a 5-year roof cert. We're good to go on the roof. That might help you retain that buyer. And then the other one is a sewer line, right? Going through, I'm guilty of it. Like I said, having that sewer line jetted out, cleaned out, and then scoped with a camera. Make sure you don't have any major cracks or any major bellies where water is pooling up in there. So those are some things that we can do ahead. I'm not saying we have to do a whole home inspection, but these sort of big ticket items, let's at least get those checked out so that we're not blowing up your deal because of that once we get to market. Okay, so a little bit of maintenance issues there. And then we're going to talk about curb appeal. Making sure the house looks as perfect as it can as that buyer pulls up. And now if you're in a condo or townhouse, we might be a little limited of what we can do with curb appeal, but we still want to make sure the door is nice and clean, not any scratching paint or peeling paint. Make sure the windows look good, window coverings, that kind of thing. Everything we can do to make that curb appeal. We're coming into the holiday season, so maybe some holiday, pumpkins or something out front type of things, or whatever we have going on for the holidays. Have that little bit of decor out there for the holiday. It might be kind of cute. And then that curb appeal is so important because as soon as the potential buyer walks up to your home, they're going to make an assessment within seconds if this is the right home for them. And then they're going to walk around your home and they're going to reinforce those positive first impressions. They're going to, everything they see, the holidays are coming up, right? So it's on their mind. They'll be like, oh, when the family comes over, we have this nice dining room table or dining room area here that we can put our family in for the dining room. Or there's this nice, whatever it is, they're going to reinforce whatever they saw in that home, that's the right home for them. That also works in reverse. If they come to the home and there's peeling paint on the door, it's all dirty, and the windows are all cobwebs everywhere, they're going to walk up and say, this is not the home for me. If they can't even do the basics of this curb appeal, what else, once I get into that home, are they not doing? And then they're going to get into that home and they're going to reinforce all those negative feelings about the home. They're going to find everything wrong with the home so they can feel about themselves that they've made that initial assessment that that's not the home for them, and then you're not going to get the offer. So that's another thing. It's curb appeal, a little bit of maintenance, and then the next thing I talked about, we're going to get into photography. Photography is very important. And we all have websites, right? denverhomesmarket.com. You all know my website. Please go check it out. Go to the advanced search. I think that's the best one, at least that's the one I like to use. Go to advanced search because you can draw a little map of exactly where you want to live, put in a price, put in the bedrooms, bathrooms that you need, and then every home that's in that price range with those bedrooms and bathrooms are going to be in that map search. It's going to show up to you. So go to denverhomesmarket.com, set up your advanced search. You can save that so you get email updates every time a house comes in that fits your criteria within your little map there. So do that, and that'll be a fantastic way for you to start at least doing your online shopping. And that brings me to photography. We have these phones, right? These fancy phones, but I cannot use a phone and go snap a bunch of pictures and put them on for my seller. I might do that for coming soon or for a private network, but when you're going to the MLS or going out to the public, those are all licensed out. Those listings are then licensed out to all the other websites out there. So I want to make sure that your photography is professional. It has well lit and proper angles and all that. You have to hire a professional to sell your home. If you're doing a camera, as fancy as these phones are, they are not real estate photographers. Us realtors, most of us at least, are not real estate photographers. I know I'm not. So I'm going to have professional photography done because everyone starts online, right? They're going to look at one or two pictures, and if it's not, the home doesn't appeal to them in those one or two pictures, they're going to go on to the next listing. You're not even going to get a fair shake. So real estate photography is super, super important. So we've talked about maintenance, we've talked about photography, we've talked about curb appeal. The next one is pricing. So the first thing I want to talk about pricing is you want to price at we're not selling a gallon of gas. So you don't want to sell for $339.99. Don't do it that way. Sell it at $700, $725, $750, or $600, $650. Whatever the number is, hit those 25, because when the potential buyer goes to their lender, the mortgage network, hopefully, and gets their pre-approval, they're not going to, the loan officer is not going to say, okay, you're approved for $699.99. That's not how they're going to do it. They're going to say, you know what, if you stay potential buyer, if you stay below 700 and below, you're going to be good. We're going to be able to get you final loan approval. They're going to go out and talk to their realtor. Give me a call, 720-688-5110, and I will set you up with a search where we go 700 and below, so you get all the homes that are 700 and below. We're not going to put in $699.99. So when you're selling your home, use the same, because the algorithms are going to work, right? So if you're going to sell your home and you think you're somewhere between 6 and 625, well, in this market, I would go to 6, but wherever you're going to go to 6 or go to 625. Don't try to do 610 or 615. just hit the numbers at the even numbers. You're going to show up in the algorithms that way. And also, you're going to hit both sides, right? If I'm a buyer and my bank tells me, hey, you can go to 800, but maybe I don't want to spend 800. I'm probably going to tell my realtor, give me a window between 700 and 800, somewhere in there, so I can look at that range and see what those homes look like. Because you don't want to go too big of a range, because you want to compare apples with apples and oranges. There's a reason there's a home priced at 800 and there's a reason it's priced at 700, and you're going to know right away the home caliber of why that is. So you want to give a range, right, between 7 and 800. Well, if you've priced your home at $699.99 and below, or $699.99, I'm not going to see it because I'm not in your market. But if I saw that home and I'm like, you know what, it's a little lower than what I wanted to spend. I was willing to spend a little more, and maybe this home has some maintenance issues or some things that I need to update on it. But I'm willing to do that. I'll buy this home for $700 because then I have money in my budget and I can remodel it the way I want to do it. So that you might be able to capture me, even though I'm looking for homes around 800,000. I have a range in there of 700 to 800, and yours is right at 700. I'm going to see it, and you might get a buyer that's willing to buy your home, and then they want to remodel it to bring it up to where they're looking at to make it those $800,000 homes. Same thing. If the buyer is looking for a home that's 700 and below, and you priced yours at 710. They didn't see it. And so it's really important to, right now, price it at 700, 725, 750, wherever your number is, hit those round numbers. Okay. Now, the next thing is, we talked about days on market, right? So we got about 50 days on market before your home is going to sell on average. So if you're not getting showings, let's have those consultations. I know they might be difficult conversations, but if it's not getting showings, if no one's looking at the home, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. If we're not getting showings, we're not going to get it sold. So we want to make sure that we're getting showings. So if we're not getting showings each week, where potential buyers are coming and take a look at it, or if we're getting a lot of showings, but they're not putting an offer, we've got to look at our competition, right? We got to figure out what's going on. So we talked a little bit about that pricing. In that same pricing is looking at, even before we go to market, looking at competitive market analysis. Instead of comparative, where we're looking at the last three or 6 months and looking at what's sold, let's look what's currently on the market as well and layer that into our pricing strategy. So that way we look at what's currently on the market and then what our competition looks like. And in that, if maybe there's a house on a busy street, that home is probably going to be worth about 7 to 10% less than the home that's like a block or two down, where it's a nice quiet part of the area. So you want to account for that too. So if you're on a busy street, know that you're probably not going to be able to price what the house is that's like six doors down off of that busy street. There's going to be a little bit of adjustment there for that. So just be ready for that. But overall, it's a great market to be in. Whether you're a seller or a buyer, it is a buyer's market, but there are ways to get it done. As for my sellers out there, we just got to do real estate. We've got to do it right. We've got to get your curb appeal. We got to price it right. Let's make sure we check those major maintenance issues and make sure that those aren't going to blow up our deal. Merchandising, make sure that the first impression is there. Professional photography. That's really all it comes down to, is just really doing real estate and doing it right. So if you're thinking about selling your home in the next 3 to 6 months or whatever it is, get me involved early. Give me a call, 720-688-5110. And let's just have an initial conversation, initial consultation. Let's do a walkthrough of the home, talk about the age of the roof, talk about the maintenance issues. And then over the next couple months, we can work with my team of getting folks out there to get things kind of cleaned up for you. So that way, when you are ready to go to market, we can go to market and be ready. And then the other thing is, we can do photography now. So we can do photography now in the next month or so before all the winter weather gets here. And that way you have maybe some nicer pictures. If we're going to be hitting the market in February or March, we want to have nice pictures. So maybe we get those pictures done a little early, get those maintenance issues done. And then when you're ready to go to the market, we'll go to market. And that's really all I have for you today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button, it should be there or right there. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then in the next 2 weeks, look for that interview. It's going to be about an hour-long interview. So be ready for that. I know attention spans are really short, but we want to do this sort of story on how I got into real estate and why I do what I do and why I'm so passionate about it. And I want to hear Christopher Weber's story about orchestrated light and how he got started. And so we're going to have a great show for that. I hope you tune in for it, or at least go take a look at it, watch it. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in to the Denver Homes Market Report. This will be coming out on the first Thursday of November. I'm just doing a little early right here. And so take a look at this show. And then by this time, we should also have that hour interview up on my YouTube channel, Denver Homes Market. So check that out as well. All right. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you next month.